You need not search far to find examples of generosity at Cypress Cove. Financial giving and volunteering play primary roles for both residents and staff. Their contributions of time, talent, and treasure seem to flow endlessly, adding purpose and meaning to our time here. In this video, you will meet the two ladies most responsible in helping to guide and encourage us along the way.
So my middle name is Joy, and so throughout my career, I've always wanted to hopefully bring joy to others and serve others, and likewise they feel joy in giving back to the community, whether that is time, talent, or treasure. So I'm just hoping to bring joy, and I'm sure you feel the same, Darlene.
Definitely.
What's your middle name?
Darlene.
What's your first name?
Linda.
Linda. But she goes by Darlene. Why does she
do.
go by Darlene?
Well, my mother was Southern, and that's a kind of a Southern thing. So my name is Linda Darlene. Never expected to call me Linda.
Okay.
And my mother and all of her sisters are called by their middle name.
Now you've got two last names too. You couldn't make up which one you liked or what?
Well, Shamley is kind of an unusual last name, and I married into Smith, so I didn't want to lose my uniqueness.
Well, besides you'd get lost in the Smiths, but
That's
as
right.
a Shamley Smith, you are unique.
Especially Linda Smith.
Yeah. And you are unique.
Thank you.
What do you mean by when somebody turns in their hours, it helps your nonprofit status?
Yeah, so Cypress Cove at Health Park, Florida is its own separate 501c3. So it's a not-for-profit. And so when we talk about volunteer efforts and volunteer hours, that helps us build our case to maintain that not-for-profit status. And there's other factors involved and financials and things, but the volunteer portion is very important in how we're able to dictate that to our auditors and things, is to provide those volunteer hours, including the job opportunities that they have. And also it kind of files into a sort of social accountability that we are giving back not only to our community here at Cypress Cove, but the community of Southwest Florida at large. So it is very important to track those hours, which Darlene does a wonderful job of that.
So the first step is letting us know that you have an interest in volunteering, and many times I will then share with them the opportunities that we have in this booklet here, and so they can kind of get an idea of what we currently have going on. That is not exclusive to what we have. We have many residents who have a passion that they make into the volunteer opportunity, kind of like what you're doing now, John. You have an interest in the videos, these informational videos, and that is considered a volunteer opportunity or volunteerism. And so we want to give you credit for that and to log that into our information as far as volunteer hours.
Yeah, I looked up the word philanthropy, a definition, before we came down to do this interview, and I was surprised. I had always misdefined it. I thought philanthropy was the giving of money, but it's not. It's time, it's talent, and the opportunities here at Cypress Cove are amazing. I mean, I do several things, but they're things that I want to do, something that I have a joy for, and it allows me to expand my joy. So I like that part.
Yeah, and you talk about the time and talent. Our residents have so much expertise as business owners and attorneys and teachers and all sorts of different fields of study that they've had their careers in. So bringing their time and talent to the table, and Darlene matching them up with a perfect opportunity that fits their passion and their longing to give back. I think it's a beautiful program, and Darlene has really taken hold of that and managed it in such a way that I think that our residents feel very fulfilled in what they're doing here in our community.
Let's take a look at some of these committees and groups that residents can serve on. These are just partial lists to whet the appetite. Darlene can help find something that'll fit you to a T. Get it? The 3 T's: time, talent, or treasure. Something you'd enjoy doing. Now let's see if these volunteers look like they're having any fun doing what they're doing.
rain,
or
shine,
We
deliver.
come visit the new pearls.
no money required.
we're the local 7-Eleven without the beer.
That's pretty good. Should we go with that one?
Come on down and pull some weeds with us.
And we live on the contributions that people make.
I love writing articles for Cove Currents.
Why don't you come join us?
And what better way to meet people than write about them?
Bet you always wondered where these flowers come from. We make caps for kids, doctors and nurses. You want to help?
I love it. Some of the volunteer positions that you have available are harder to fill than others. And sometimes I think it's only because people don't even know that there's a want or a need. Can you give me an example or two of some of those that, like you have right now, that you wish you had somebody to help?
So right now we're trying to reinvigorate the volunteerism between the harbor and the other entities that we have here. So the cottage, the inn, the lodge. Prior to the pandemic, I think that was, we had more engagement in those areas. I came during the pandemic, so I don't know what it was like prior to, but my deep passion is to make it better than it was. And to really increase volunteerism in those areas. So right now we do really want to increase volunteerism in the inn. We need some people to call bingo. We need people to serve as transporters, and we don't need the residents to necessarily, well, we don't want the residents to help other residents into wheelchairs and things like that, things that we have staff to do and that require an expertise. But we may need people to help, if they're in a wheelchair, help them, go from one of those areas over here to the harbor to attend something in the Edison Hall or one of the programs that we have, because we don't have enough staff necessarily to get all the residents who are interested over here. So that's something that we would like to have a pool of volunteers to pull from when that's needed. We have some opportunities where we just want residents to engage and provide companionship for those in those areas. Once they leave independent living, sometimes they feel like they've lost their friendships here, and we want them to feel still connected to the people that they have valued in their lives. So if we can get a program going more where people can go over and share just something that they're interested in, maybe travels that they've been on, where they can share a program, maybe an activity, a watercoloring, puzzle making, just some type of companionship like that. And we can work with the activities people over there to get that done, or to schedule that, but that's really what we're focusing on at this moment.
Yeah, I saw the art studio did an art show over there recently. Yeah, and so the cottage and the inn, these are assisted living and memory care, full care nursing are the buildings you talk about. I notice we give them flowery names, the cottage, the lodge, the inn. But that's what they are, and I'm here in a life plan community thinking of what's coming in my life, not what I've done or what I'm even happening today, and someday that's going to be me, very likely, and so I'd sure appreciate it if somebody different came over for a visit. Melody, let's talk about philanthropy, the financial part, the contribution.
Sure.
What are the type things, and you don't have to mention people's names if you don't want to, but that have happened recently that you think would be good examples of that type of philanthropy?
I've been so impressed with the amount of vehicles that our residents choose to give through. So there's all sorts of different ways to give back. So it could be cash, it could be a check, but I've seen some creative giving. So they've actually transferred securities to Cypress Cove. We've seen some IRA rollovers, which are great because sometimes our residents don't even think they can give through an IRA, but you actually avoid that income tax. So if you roll it directly over to a qualifying charity like Cypress Cove, then you avoid that taxation and you get that wonderful feel-good happiness that Darlene had talked about giving back to your home. We've also seen some beneficiary plans where they include Cypress Cove in their estate plan. But then we've also seen some tangible gifts. So we had some companion pets donated for our lodge and cottage residents where it's a cat or a dog that actually acts like a companion without feeding and all the fun stuff that goes with actually owning a pet.
Yeah.
And so it's been a wonderful discovery to see how creative our residents can be with giving back.
One of my favorites is the scholarship fund.
Absolutely.
Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah,
that thing
so
is just it's beyond blossomed. What do you call it?
It's a movement, and
Yeah.
it's such an impact here in this community. And so what you're alluding to, the scholarship fund, there's about 5 different funds here at Cypress. That's one of many. But what it does is really impacts the Cypress Cove team members and their dependents. So through Cypress Living, Cypress at Home, and Cypress Cove, all of those team members and dependents can actually apply for a $2,000 award scholarship twice per year. So for the spring and fall semesters. So in some cases, it could be the determining factor whether they continue school or not, because oftentimes some of these scholars are struggling to make ends meet and even continue pursuing their education. So these scholarships have been gifted by residents and their loved ones, and they're endowed scholarships, which start at a minimum of $25,000, and that corpus continually produces that interest that spins off those awards. And then there's named scholarships. So the named scholarships start at a minimum of $10,000, and then that gets depleted and can be reissued at any time. So
Yeah, so you mean like your family name can be attached to that
Exactly.
one? It's the Schwanke Family Scholarship.
I like the way that sounds, John. Yes, exactly. And it's such a rewarding way. And it's also a way for our residents to have a legacy of their own family. And so they have gone through education and hearing the different stories that we've heard. There's so many various ways that they've become successful, and oftentimes it came from some help through scholarships.
Melody, for levels below 10,000, I know there's a lot of ways that you can like join a group that forms a scholarship, or how does that work?
Yeah, and again, that creativity. So you can join up with a couple different residents and opt to do a named scholarship together, or you can choose to give to the General Staff Scholarship Fund. So there's not necessarily your name associated with it, but you still get that happiness of giving back to this program. And to date, we've awarded 200 scholarships.
Wow.
With a grand total of $348,000 gifted. And I'll tell you, you had mentioned the future police officer. It's vocational, it's tech schools, it's colleges, it's universities, it's anything from, like I said, vocational through a master's degree. So we have the gamut of those who are really applying and want to do good in their life and want to change their family dynamics. Oftentimes we see them become successful, and our hope is that they stay, of course, with Cypress Cove, but they do go on and they do great things for the community. So we're always trying to give them a step up.
Have you ever had anybody in the history that's like donated a wing or a department or anything like that?
There's been some very generous donations. The Mead Therapy Center is one of them. The Mead family came forward and said, this is something we want to do, and it's benefiting residents for decades to come.
Okay, so back to the beginning, just stop in your office and ask for one of these pretty brochures.
Yes. And I will do a volunteer orientation with you, and so that's why I'll go through our resident volunteer handbook and let you know some of our HIPAA stipulations that we want to make sure you abide by. And we do have a volunteer application form and then as well as a checklist to make sure we've gone over certain things with you. I would say that our intent with the volunteer program here at Cypress Cove is to have a conduit for the residents to feel value, that they can still give back. And giving back in the community in which you live and to your fellow residents is very impactful and meaningful, not only to the residents that you're touching, but you get rewards back for that, which most volunteers know. So we want to be a part of making your life happy, and so please come see us.